I guess I'll start with now. I just released my fourth book, The And Approach, How to Grow Your Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. And I must say for your other business listeners, Andres, outside of legal, all these strategies, what we're going to talk about today are applicable across all businesses, really. Small business, where business, the owner, it's an owner operator, founder, it's all the same. I just happen to have been in the legal sandbox for the last 20 years. So I got started by way of politics. Okay. I ran for parliament in 2004. Seems like a lifetime ago. That would be the equivalent of your House of Representatives. Okay. And thankfully I lost. I mean that very sincerely.
Wow.
It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I basically had an aha moment in my career and life where I had been the guy, right? Always the one on the stage out front. And now I'm behind the scenes. I'm behind the curtain, so to speak. So now I'm exclusively working with law firm owners. So it's entrepreneur to entrepreneur. These are people that have already achieved a level of success already on their own, but they've kind of hit a ceiling, right? Most of the time, they're the bottleneck. Everything has to pass through them. And I'm sure that some of the business owners listening to your show will identify with that. It's very typical. I know I've been a bottleneck in my own business. I had to overcome that. It's very common, right? And non-judgmental. It's just most entrepreneurs create this system where everything has to pass through them. One of the people that inspired me to write this book, a very, very successful tax attorney in Long Island, New York. She built a multi-seven-figure tax law firm in Long Island, and she was only going into the office 2 days a week. What a lovely woman. What a lovely woman. She says, she leans back in her chair and the big smile comes over her face and she says, Gary, you can have it all. You just can't do it all on your own. Well, that really struck a chord because I know that. And I've been trying to teach the lawyers that they're a breed. I mean, they're smart, right? They can pretty much do most things. So they do. And I always say, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be. It's not just lawyers. It's entrepreneurs, it's small business owners. And I understand all the reasons behind it because I am one. This is my second business. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Business Money Podcast. 1, 2, 3, Business Money Podcast Fearless. Business Money Podcast Fearless. Business Money Podcast.
Welcome to the Business Money Podcast, where intelligent financing meets strategic thinking. And what better strategic thinking can you get that with an actual coach that helps attorneys, law professionals really expand their practices, especially in this changing environment. And of course, those small practices to medium-sized practices that really want to understand the growth of their practice. Where is this practice going? And then be able to sell maybe and, be acquired by another firm or things like that. Well, guess what? We have the person right here, Gary Mitchell. Gary, how are you today?
I'm very well, Andres. I'm happy to join you on your show.
I am very excited to talk to you, my friend, because you definitely have a brain about, processes, procedures, SOPs, understanding really how to grow a practice. But briefly, I want to make a quick introduction of basically who you are so the audience understands basically who are we now listening to that we're going to get a lot of information from. So Gary has been working under the intense scrutiny of lawyers since 2005 and has enabled to sharpen his coaching skills, in addition to being highly intelligent lawyer makers, also known to be among the most analytical, critical, and skeptical people on the planet. That is all true, my friend, because a lot of my friends are actually attorneys. So you recognize that basically that was a great thing in your profession. And you wanted to understand how to help businesses grow and succeed. So Gary, first of all, tell us about you, what you've been doing all of these years that we haven't met each other. And now, how are you helping all of these business owners and entrepreneurs, especially in the law industry?
I guess I'll start with now. I just released my fourth book, The And Approach, How to Grow Your Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. And I must say for your other business listeners, Andres, outside of legal, all these strategies, what we're going to talk about today, all these strategies, tips, and proven action items are applicable across all businesses, really. Small business, right? Where business, the owner, it's an owner operator, founder, it's all the same. I just happen to have been in the legal sandbox for the last 20 years. So I got started by way of politics. Okay. I ran for parliament in 2004. Seems like a lifetime ago. That would be the equivalent of your House of Representatives. Okay. And thankfully I lost. I mean that very sincerely.
Wow.
So then I found myself coaching a lawyer to win a nomination, which would be the equivalent of your primaries, right? He had to earn the opportunity to become the candidate first. He won the nomination and he wanted me to be his campaign manager. I reluctantly took the job and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I basically had an aha moment in my career and life where I had been the guy, right? Always the one on the stage out front. And now I'm behind the scenes. I'm behind the curtain, so to speak. And I'm coaching this lawyer, zero experience in politics and communication and speaking and networking and soft skills. So during the course of the campaign, it was a very long campaign. And his best friend, also a lawyer, suggested at one point that I really look at the legal industry, that they could really use help with similar soft skills transferable to business, right? Marketing, business development, networking, speaking, building relationships. Right? So after I picked my jaw up off the concrete, we went for a juice after a campaign meeting. I began about 9 months of research. As serendipity would have it, the first chapter of the Legal Marketing Association was forming in Vancouver. And I went to the meeting. I networked with some veteran legal marketers coming up from the States. And I haven't looked back. Now, in the last couple of years, I've niched within a niche. So now I'm exclusively working with law firm owners. So it's entrepreneur to entrepreneur. These are people that have already achieved a level of success already on their own, but they've kind of hit a ceiling, right? Most of the time, they're the bottleneck. Everything has to pass through them. And I'm sure that some of the business owners listening to your show will identify with that. It's very typical. I know I've been a bottleneck in my own business. I had to overcome that. It's very common, right? And non-judgmental. It's just most entrepreneurs create this system where everything has to pass through them, and that doesn't really bode well for having a life, right? You're chained to the desk. You can't even go on a vacation because the emails and the text messages are coming in constantly. So I really got motivated to write this book and really switch my focus, not just to growing, right? Not just to bringing in more revenue and more money, but growing and gaining more freedom in your life. And you can do it when you set intention. I'm not saying it's easy. Okay. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it and I wouldn't have a career, right? It's not easy. But when you set intention and you start out with a plan and you're determined to create this way of being, it happens. It happens all the time. Some of my clients were already doing the end approach when I came around and helped them go to the next level. One of the people that inspired me to write this book, we've spoken about it as in our pre-call, a very, very successful tax attorney in Long Island, New York. Okay, that's first hurdle and challenge. Female owner built a multi-7-figure tax law firm in Long Island, and she was only going into the office 2 days a week because her aunt was raising her 2 daughters. So she'd work from home, have time with her family, raise her 2 daughters. She looks back and she goes, it was the best decision she had ever made. So I'm interviewing her, and near the end of the interview, she says, what a lovely woman. What a lovely woman. She says, she leans back in her chair and the big smile comes over her face. And she says, Gary, you can have it all. You just can't do it all on your own. Well, that really struck a chord because I know that. And I've been trying to teach the lawyers that they're a breed. I mean, they're smart, right? They can pretty much do most things. So they do. And I always say, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be, right? So, again, it's not just lawyers. It's entrepreneurs, it's small business owners. And I understand all the reasons behind it because I am one. This is my second business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business at 25 and built a national event, right? I just got in there, got my hands dirty, got some bruises and some scrapes, picked myself up as we all do, right? We make mistakes. That's how we learn.
For sure.
Well, now I've got 20 years of learning plus the hundreds of attorneys I've worked with and their learning and their mistakes and correcting them. So I've got basically a vault of content and information to share with my clients. And it's an exciting time. As you said, everything's changing, right? Workforces are changing. We've got 5 generations in the workforce right now. That's a challenge in and of itself, right?
Wow, for sure. Because, I think, it's not that before when we went through our changes in all of our economies, right? And we're talking even from Europe all the way here in the North America, South America, we even went through industrialization. Then we got into the service industry. But before, times change a lot slower than what they are changing today. So Gary, especially us, with our businesses, in the organizations that we lead and everything. So we have 5 stages of every business, right? You have the startup, you have the early stage, you have the mid stage, you have the maturity, and then you have finally the exit and the
Right.
acquisition.
Right.
You mentioned something when we were talking earlier about you gotta plan the exit. You gotta build like you were gonna exit. It doesn't mean that you have to, but at least that takes you to you can have it all, but not do it all, right?
See, I always start out, Andres, with I ask my clients, what's the big picture? What's the end game? So there's a whole bunch of questions, right? What's your why? Why are you doing this? Or what's your and, right? You're building a business, but what's your and? What do you want to do with your time? Some people, honestly, it's really all about the money. It's really all about the growth. They just want to grow as big as possible. That's number one. Other people do want to be able to go to their daughter's soccer practice, right? And see their sons play, or vice versa, the other way around, right? They would like to have vacation time with their spouse. They would like to pursue hobbies, sports or music or other. Like, in other words, have a life. Now, I lead by example. Okay. I don't just talk the talk. I walk the walk. I spend my winters in Mexico. I work from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico every year. And you know what I find? Okay. There's a lot of distractions down there, of course, but I'm about 4 times more productive because it's sunny every day. I love the culture. I love the food. In my off time, the quality of my off time is amazing, right? So I regenerate and I'm back to whatever I'm doing, right? Leading up to the book launch and hundreds of articles and podcasts and all this stuff. So my end is bucket list travel. I want to travel as much as I can to as many countries. I've got a map on my wall with pins on where I've been in one color and pins on where I want to go to. I actually picked that up years ago when I was traveling, and we were billeted in people's homes. And it wasn't where I was billeted, but was one of my cast members, and her father was a school teacher and took every summer and traveled around the world. And I'll never forget going into his office, and he had this map on world map on the wall. And he had that. That's where I got the idea. It's not my brilliant idea. I have to give credit. And I was only 19, Andres. And I saw all the places he had been and then all the places he'd want to go. And I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that.
It's so powerful. It's a visualization tool, kind of like a prosperity map. If if you've done any, of course, training on
I'm
yourself
big on
and
that.
trying to grow.
I'm very big on that.
I'm
Yeah.
big on that. I mean, I look, the Tony Robbins, Date with Destiny, I can mention a lot of them, Millionaire Mind Intensive, you name it, but they teach you that actually, because if you do not know how that looks like, how are you going to get there? So it was a great visualization. I share with you the same sentiment, actually in the same interest into traveling. I travel a lot
Yeah.
as well, and I design my life to be able to be in
That's
all
right.
over the United States,
That's right.
actually, in this case, and even Central South America. I
Yeah.
do travel to Mexico a lot. I mean,
See,
probably
you just
4.
said it. You just said it. And I want to stop you there. I don't mean to interrupt. You design your life. That's right. That's the end approach. It's taking that intentional, right? The problem is, Andres, and it's not, it's not just lawyers. It's most people in life don't take a beat. They don't take a step, a pause, and look around and go, okay, where is all this going? Right? They're so inundated on working in the business, right? Day to day. And it's just one fire after another, after another, after another. I mean, we could go deeper, but that would require hours of your show.
I
But
I think
the
so, and I
bottom
want to have
line,
you back, Gary. So I want you to save all of the good stuff for later. As
okay,
we grow.
but you hit it. You design your life around you design your life so that your business supports your life. You design the business to support your life, not your life to support the business. You're in the minority. We are in the minority. And I mean, how much money do we need? How much money can we take with us? Zero,
Exactly.
right? So for me,
Exactly.
it's quality of life. And I mean, I am a serial entrepreneur. I love growing. I love building. I have the very fortunate happenstance of having a career where I'm not only growing my thing, I get to help oodles and oodles of other people grow theirs and see their dreams realized. But it all starts with having a vision. And I do, because we're going to get into that, the exit. I always, like, for instance, say I'm working with a mid-level firm owner. So they've been in it maybe 15 years. They've achieved a level of success. They're probably doing a couple million in revenue, but they don't have freedom. They're tied to everything goes through them. They do not have the time. So the first thing I do is ask them, what is the end game? Where are we going here? I will help them rebrand. Okay. I will help them build systems, templates, and processes for scaling. And inevitably what that does is it increases the valuation of their firm, or for some of your listeners, their business, right? So you're 2 years out, maybe you're retiring or you're semi-retiring or there's different models, right? And you're not scrounging around going, oh my God, what am I going to do? No, you've been planning for that because Andres, I've seen far too many attorneys when they're done, they leave the office, close the door, and that's it. They got nothing to show for it. 40 years, blood, sweat, and tears, nothing to show for it. And that I find like tragic. Your whole life, your baby, your whole life has been given to this pursuit, right? And it's more common than you may think. And I'm sure it's common in the broader business community. And I think that's a shame because we are on the cusp of the largest generational transfer of business and wealth in the history of mankind. With all the baby boomers and their age, there is so much opportunity for the baby boomers to get it right, fully cash out, go on and live the life they've always dreamed of, and turn over a turnkey, operational, profitable business to the next generation. I mean, younger people want that opportunity. They're looking for it. And you're not buying, when you buy a business, when you buy a law firm, for instance, you're not just buying a book of business. What the buyer is going to be looking for is brand recognition, right? So it's marketing. That's branding it's not your firm name on the door. It's an actual brand, like corporate brand. You're buying systems. You're buying templates. You're buying scalability. You're buying an amazing team. Like you're walking into turn the key, and from day one, you're making money. That's the approach I take with a lot of my clients. It's hard for them to stop and think. Many of them are in their 40s. So there's like retirements, way off in the distance. But I'm like, here's the mythology behind it. Whether you retire fully or not, these systems and processes are going to help you grow, gain more freedom along the way, and increase the value of your business. There's no downside to this, none whatsoever. And people go, well, how can you do that? Okay, well, I'll show you. First of all, we start with your strength, right? Instead of you trying to do everything and be all to all people, which lawyers are famous for, right? Absolutely. Probably the word. I mean, I always say this, Andres, all these traits are human. Like we all have them, right? Perfectionism, procrastination, the strive for perfection and excellence. And most business people I know, we have these traits. Lawyers kind of have those traits tenfold, right? They're like human traits on crack or whatever. I don't know. I don't do drugs. So they're not any different than any of us. They're just more of what we are. And there's a lot of psychology behind this stuff. But there's nothing more fulfilling when you can see the light in their eyes begin to come about, and they can see some relief, and they can start to enjoy their life, and they can see it growing. And they're like, I had a conversation with a former client, very, very successful. I don't even think he's 40 yet. I worked with him between 2018 and 2020. When I started with him, he had 5 lawyers working under him, and he brought me in because he wanted to create a partnership for his millennials. They're all like, where am I going to be? What's my career going to look like here? Where are we going with this? Right. And he's like, I don't know. So we started there. I ended up working with him, his office manager, the lawyers, the paralegals. Last time I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, he's at 20 lawyers, but you know what? He's still chained to the desk. He still has his staff. Everything is going through him. I'm trying to get him to sit down and have a conversation with me because the money's coming in. The growth is there, highly successful. Very successful, but he's chained to the desk. Everything has to go through him. And he says, well, why did, through an email, he says something about why didn't she take the initiative? I haven't had the conversation with him, Andres, but it would go something like this. She hasn't taken the initiative because you haven't taken her off the leash. You have created a culture where everyone feels they have to go through you. They can't figure it out or get to the solution themselves and then bring you the solution because you've created that atmosphere. Unintentionally, I'm sure. Right?
Yes. But here's the thing, Gary, I've seen those examples, not even just on the attorneys or
it's everywhere.
Lawyers. I've seen it in healthcare practices. I've seen it in, so many professional industries where it's the person usually building and it's the detachment of the ego that you got to work on.
Yes.
Because
They're letting go of control, right? And I'll be very blunt with, I don't hold anything back with my clients. They actually appreciate that. I mean, we just get right to it. I will say to them flat out, if you are unable to let go of control, you cannot grow from here. It will be the end of our conversation. You won't work with me and you won't work with anyone that does anything close to what I do, because part of this is letting go. I go back to the strength. One of my absolute gurus to study, I'm constantly reading his quotes and things, was Steve Jobs, right? And I'm old enough, I think I'm older than you. I'm old enough to remember the old school of thinking when it came to doing a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
I love that. Yep.
Back in the early 90s, the old school was pick up your socks, right? Like fix that, do that, get that better, and whatever. And Steve Jobs comes around, and like many things in business and organization and leadership, he turned that upside down. He goes, no. Don't waste your time on your weaknesses. Focus everything on your strengths and become a master at them. I always say to my clients, I want to help you become a Jedi in your strengths, a Jedi master. Okay. Then what we do is we build a team systematically with complementary skills. And what happens is you find people to fill the weaknesses who do it 10 times better, 10 times faster, and a lot less expensive, because you're not taking up your precious hours. You're the highest paid person in the firm. You should not be doing admin tasks. You should not be running the marketing department. You should not be running the HR department. And yet they do. And so it's, I have to help them move the goalpost. And it doesn't happen overnight, because we are dealing with humans. We do not, as humans, I would say the most unfortunate thing about being human is that we don't change until the pain has reached such a level it's excruciating and we have to change.
Unfortunately, those are the moments that put things in perspective, when you start dismantling the things in your life that you don't need.
That's right.
Because you think that you need this, you think that you need that. And then when you take all that out and start kind of like redesigning your life, then you say, okay, I don't need to always be the bottleneck because I'm trying to be good at something that's not my strength. Let's bring somebody else. So now when it comes to what you just said, look, because actually the valuations of the business is something that we look at constantly. Tomorrow I'll be actually with a manufacturing firm here, they're exiting as well. And we're going to go through evaluation. So here's the thing. When you look at especially in the service industry and professionals, well, you just said it. I've seen a lot of, let's say, insurance companies or insurance producers that when they just focus on basically doing their practice, but then they sold, but they weren't able to get a good value because all they focus on was basically on managing everything themselves. They didn't bring in good talent, to help them as C-level executives to continue to grow and expand their business. They didn't also establish IP, intellectual property, or maybe systems, applications, websites, all of that is part of the value that you were just mentioning, right?
Yeah.
So they, again, when they sell, let's say, at an asset-based value, because that's all the
exactly
this practice is really worth.
And that's
okay.
It
But
should be way more than
if
that.
you plan like you help people, then they can sell at a 8x, 10x. They can be acquired by a private equity firm, things like that, right?
And there's different models too, because I find like I've been working. This is an interesting story. So I'm working with this kid. I call him a kid because I think he was about 28 when I was working with him. A small firm in Ontario, just north of Toronto. His father is the founder and managing partner and hired me to work with him. So I was working with him for a year, and then his father had to fire him. And I supported that decision because I knew that this particular lawyer would go out into the big bad world, work for non-daddy law firm, and grow up, right? I had a conversation with him 2 weeks ago, and he said, Gary, I'm sorry. I owe you so much thanks. Like all the stuff that you taught me, this is back 2021, 22, said all the stuff you taught me didn't land at the time, but it has definitely landed. When he got away and had to go out, work for a different firm, he said, I have a file. I have your file. It's got all your tips. And if I feel I'm getting stuck, I just pull out the file. He went on and on and on and on. I'm like, can I record this? Anyway, he's trying to help his father exit. And here's the other issue. This is what I found. And I'm sure this will resonate with you with other businesses. When you've been the founder, you've put 40 years of your life or more into building something, letting go is excruciatingly scary and painful. Like basically, when I was talking to this young lawyer, he's now back working with his father, and he's been slowly but surely taking over more managerial and operational responsibilities. I always thought that kid was entrepreneurial and had the potential. Well, hopefully we're going to groom him to become the managing partner and
But you
help.
saw that in him because you
Yes,
were not the father. This
that's right.
is a lot of mistakes that I see with founders
No, but
that they don't do.
his father did the right thing. He gave him an opportunity. The kid didn't take full advantage of it, right? He was working with me for a year, right? He didn't take full advantage of it, wasn't making the improvements, so he fired him, which was the best thing to do, both for the relationship and professionally. Then he's got his stuff together, comes back, and now he's taking more responsibility, and he's now going to help his father ease into semi-retirement or retirement. Here's the thing I wanted to get at there too, because maybe some of your listeners may be on that or approaching that point. You don't have to fully retire. One of the models that I really push forward, because I know these guys, it's their baby. Like there's many times where you hear lawyers dying at their desk, 80 years old. Okay. They may not be the owner of a law firm. It just may be a practice because they truly love, they put everything part of their being into their career. Okay. I get that, but you don't have to fully retire. You can work on whether you're selling internally to partners who are growing up in the business or you're selling externally, right? You can build an agreement where you stay on as a mentor. You're drawing a salary, but you're not in the operational day to day, right? You're in Costa Rica or you're in Spain or you're in Australia with your spouse, you're traveling, maybe skiing, maybe climbing a mountain, whatever you want to do, right? Right. And you're still drawing, you still have a connection with your baby because you're like a mentor, right? But you're not in the weeds every day. And not only that, but you're also getting the buyout, right? When they're buying into the firm or buying you out. So there's many different models. And I find that hybrid seems to be most appealing because lawyers don't want to, and I understand, man, like my business, I'll be 60 in August. Andre's retirement? What? I love what I do. You're muted, I
I
think.
look more like a retirement age than you. So
I
don't
don't know.
worry.
But the thought of it, so I do fully understand where they're coming from, right? But the point is, whenever you're done with this, do you want to just walk out the door and close it? Or do you want to have a massive cash out for the 40 or 50 years you put into this? And let's start now. You can never start too early. The earlier you start, first of all, the more ease you'll have, the more freedom you will have along the way, along the journey. And then it's not like such a mad dash near the end to try and get everything together before they go and talk to somebody like you or, network with you where somebody comes to you for capital because they want to buy a firm or a business and you know of a couple of opportunities and you're like, yeah, you could probably get this one real cheap because he hasn't done this, and this. We could turn it around really quickly.
Yeah. So, and we actually talk to a lot of companies actually that either they need capital. And
Yeah,
then once we start understanding, that they need capital and we start understanding why they need the capital, we see the inefficiencies of the utilization of capital, right?
that's right.
Now, one
Yeah,
of the things we do is, of course, what we call the M&A expansion, franchising, consulting to be able to expand really businesses.
yeah,
And in these conversations of franchising, right now what we're seeing is the velocity of capital, the valuation of businesses. It's being accelerated now through technology. So if you really invested in technology and SOPs that you just mentioned, Gary, that's what you do and you work on, then you get better valuations. Second of all, I believe that there are ways for you to create incentives. I'm always evaluating what are the incentives, what are the motives of the business, what are the
yes,
incentives of the business and the people that work for the business. The incentives are the piece that are really key for all of your employees to have a buy-in as well as the culture.
I
So
agree.
when you have a well-organized business company that knows where it's going, that understand that we're going to grow this much and we need to cultivate you, to come and help us lift the brand and continue to grow forward, then they feel invested. Also, you create, and you mentioned, in franchising, like we've seen agreements where, hey, we're trying to incentivize people to be able to actually get the franchisees or the franchises to be incentivized with their employees to grow those locations. And
Yes,
we do it through incentives.
yeah,
So the incentives are a big piece that I believe that you can build with the SOPs, with the culture, with everything, that you can
Well,
work on.
yeah, the other thing from my point of view, personally speaking, it's just way more fun to be in a collaborative culture rather than dictating. My EA said to me a couple months ago, she has two clients. I'm one and she works for another professional services firm. And she said, Gary, I really appreciate working with you because you don't micromanage me. And I'm like, okay, first thing I think of was, well, excellent, good. That's my intention because I didn't hire you to tell you what to do. In the words of Steve Jobs, again, back to my guru for leadership, organizational structure, and business,
Go Steve Jobs.
we don't hire smart people so we tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And I'm telling you, in the last year, I have benefited greatly from living what I speak. Okay. I'm not just talking the talk. And Anna, she's my EA. She comes to me with amazing ideas. They're out of wouldn't have thought of that. Right? If I kept her on a leash and I was like, do this, do this, do that, I would never get that. I have seen this over and over and over for 20 years, Andres. I've even asked some of my clients, I've said, when's the last time you had a conversation or took your receptionist out for coffee? Think about it for a minute. Your receptionist sees every single client walking in the office. For how many years they've been there? They have intel you have no idea about. Right? It's there's so much missed opportunity by making an inclusive, collaborative culture. And that's in the way you work, but then adding the incentives, well, you're going to increase your retention rates. You're not going to be having a revolving door on your office. Your people are going to be happy. When people are engaged in a part of building something, most people want to be a part of it. They want to contribute, right? So you contribute that, the psychological culture, and then the financial culture of they have buy-in, they've got skin in the game. When this firm succeeds, they succeed. And people get bonuses and there's structure. And I've done this with tons of clients. I mean, to me, it's just no brainer. It makes sense. And I have to tell you, working is way more fun, right? Why do you try and figure everything out on your own when there's many talented people around you?
Well, and I think that's the key, because here's the thing. I always say, every time we evaluate so many startups, so many ideas, so many ventures, and a lot of them are trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yes,
I mean,
I know.
I say
Yeah.
this with all honesty. I love, people, having their ideas, but sometimes I say, look, 85% of businesses that start that are not really with a business model, with SOPs, with processes, with legal, with everything, they fail
Yeah.
in 2 years.
Yeah.
In 2 years. Now, flip that around on the franchising world, 85% of businesses that start with a franchising process model, actually acquiring a business
Yes.
model, it's 15% failure rate. So it's all flipped. So then
Well,
you
I've
say,
actually, I
why?
had this conversation with one of my clients and we were talking about, I said, basically, it's the McDonald's model of how to grow a law firm. And he laughed. He goes, you know what? In high school, I worked at McDonald's and it's always been my dream to build the McDonald's of law firms. And I said, well, then we are going to get along great. That's exactly what we're talking about. No matter where you are in the world, that burger, whether you like it or not, I'm not a fan, but I'm talking about the business now, not the food. That burger is the same no matter whether you're in Houston, where you are, whether you're in Vancouver, where you're in Beijing, or where you're in Barcelona, right? Because they've got the template, they got the systems and the processes, how to get the burger the exact same quality in the exact same time. So what I always say to my clients is what we're going to do is we are going to create a plug and play. We are going to find the right people. We are going to plug them into the right systems and we're going to go press play and you can go and climb that mountain or lay on the beach or have margaritas at sunset in Puerto Vallarta or Cancun, whatever you want to do. You get the right people, you plug them into the right systems, you're on your way. Now, again, it sounds easy, right? It's not complicated. It is very simple, but the execution is where the challenge comes in because we are dealing with human beings.
That is exactly the key. I will tell you because I deal with a lot of human beings and,
Me too.
well, I mean,
Mostly human beings.
some of them human beings now. But here's the thing. Well, so I always look at statistics. All right. So yes, because we're dealing, of course, everything is expandable. It's multipliable in different areas, locations, and everything. but you need good operators. You need good, basically, the person that you choose to carry the brand has to be a person aligned with the same commitment, with the same impact, with the same values. I mean, that's something basically that I understood from every organization we're trying to impact as well, Gary. I think I'm part of a couple of nonprofit organizations for incubating Hispanic ownership,
Yep.
business
Yep.
ownership, the Latino Franchise Council, the CELH, Cámara de Empresarios Latinos, which is a big organization here in the US as well. Well, guess what? Everywhere we go and we speak, I want to make sure that people understand the model is there, but they have to come in with principles, values that are
Yes.
aligned
Yes.
to the brand. So that's where the disconnect can happen, because choosing the wrong people for that's where it
No,
can get.
you've got to have, and this is another very common mistake with lawyers, is that they wait too long to hire. So I have a 60, 80, 100 rule. Okay. So whether they're solo practice or they are building a small firm, and I'm sure this rule can be very much applied to your other business clients. When you are a professional, you're in services. So you're not just growing a firm, you're actually serving clients. You've got your own clientele. When you're at 60% of capacity, that's when you start looking, not 90%. Here's the reasoning. It's going to take you time to find the right people. You have to have time to train them and onboard them. So 60%, you start looking. By 80%, you're hiring them. So you've got still 20% of your capacity to train them and get them up to speed to your standards. Now, you talk about incentives. I met this, brainiac, the most entrepreneurial lawyer I've ever met. He's in Toronto. He doesn't even practice. He's CEO. He's running the firm 100% of the time. But his director of operations is on a 15% revenue share. Brilliant. That director of operations, first of all, he's outstanding, right? Like absolutely outstanding. Call it office manager, call it COO. I don't care what you call it, but he's basically doing the back end of all the finance and all the back end stuff of the firm. And I've always been a proponent of that. It's like there's more than enough to go around. And when you create, as I said, when you create the psychological culture where people want to come to work, they want to contribute, they want to be a part of building, and you add the incentive to that, that's your magic formula, right? So it's like, I love the HR part. Most of my clients hate HR, and I understand why. It's very challenging. I'll tell you the typical cycle. Okay, of a law firm owner or solo practice lawyer. And I'm sure your listeners are going to identify with this one too. So you're busy, you're building your business and you need to hire. So you hire someone, but you don't do a very good job of onboarding them. You don't do a very good job of delegating specific instruction, also making sure they understand your door is open if they have questions, following up. You don't do that. They come to you and they're totally stumped and you have to do it all over again. So you get ticked off, you get stressed, you go, I might as well just do it myself. And this perpetuates, the cycle keeps perpetuating because you got to take responsibility for your part of it. One, hiring the right people. Two, and that's not easy. It takes time. I've got strategies on that and they work. Two, properly onboarding them. Three, properly giving them instruction. Four, following up, making sure this is a collaborative environment. You're there to help. They do not have to figure it out on their own. If they hit a wall, come to you and ask for help before it's at the end and it's too late and the client's like, where's my file? Whatever. So I help them understand. It's like, okay, take responsibility for your part of it. That's the leadership part. That's the managing part. You got to get the right people, then you got to do the right things with them, get them in the right roles, do the right things with them. So this is why it's complicated, because lawyers are never trained. I mean, most professionals are never trained in this area. And another thing, in the larger firms, HR is really a function that hires the non-lawyer staff. Like they're not.
It's true.
That's
true. It's mostly basically supportive team.
That's right. It's the partners or the senior partners who do most of the HR hiring. They've never had any HR training, right? They think, oh, this is a great resume. You have this experience. You have that experience. Great. Come on board. The other thing I want to say
My God, no.
Yeah, the other one, I want to give a free tip out to your audience here. When you're hiring, hire for attitude first. Forget about the resume. Forget about the school you went to. Forget about the marks. Forget about all that crap. Put them through some exercises that will help you determine, are they a team player? Are they a solution focused person, or do they dwell on the problem? Are they good to work with? Are they collaborative? There's a whole bunch of strategy I have on my hiring process that I recommend to my clients. But attitude, in my opinion, Andres, and the older I get, the more I live life, it just keeps getting more cemented. It's 99% of everything, right? I mean, even we were talking about soccer, right? The World Cup. There's been a few underdog teams take on giants. That's not experience. That's not skill. That's attitude. That's mindset, right?
That is correct, right?
I've believed this for the majority of my life, but as I swear, as I get older and older, I see more examples every day proving that yes, attitude is 99% of everything, right? When you have the right attitude, you're going to figure it out. You're going to do whatever it takes. You're going to work as hard as it takes. You're going to like I mean, they work hard, like lawyer. Wow. It is not easy to pass an LSAT and become a lawyer. Like it's one of the hardest things out there, probably up there with brain surgeon, literally.
Yeah.
The expression that this isn't brain surgery. Well, lawyers are pretty close in a lot of cases. But my point is that, I actually read an article. This was way back, maybe my second year or third year in coaching. So 2007, 2008. And I read this article about this firm in the US, and their hiring strategy was brilliant. They purposely bypassed the top tier law schools. Okay. They didn't even look at candidates from the top tier law schools. They went to second and third tier. And they bypassed the A students. They went to the B students, because what they found over time is that the more often than not, those B students were also working to pay their way through law school, which speaks to character, work ethic, attitude, right? And they found this hugely successful in the retention rates. These people had a good attitude. They put the work in. They were flexible. They would take direction well. They would work well in a team. Right? They could work well on their own, but they could work well in a team. So that's one very important thing I wanted to get out to your audience. Like when you're hiring, forget about everything you've been told. Like it's attitude. That's what you want to hire.
I have exactly the same thought process in regards to attitude. To me, attitude is everything. I met people with the highest degrees of MBAs, with all of the accolades, but their attitude was just killing the team.
Yeah.
And then I meet people that do not have those accolades, but their attitude is really of problem solving,
That's
really
right.
technical research, or even, let's say, emotional research or whatever it is, the problem that, let's say, the situation or the firm or the business is experiencing, and how they can be of help and service. Now, Gary, I think that you and we can probably, stay in this podcast probably, 5 hours, but I think our audience, we probably can, because I'm going to put on the table, I would love to have you again and dive deep into other
I would
ways
love that.
to help
I would
that.
love that.
But here's the thing. I want to make sure that the audience knows where they can find Gary Mitchell and the On Track Coach team, for them to be able to better their practices, better their businesses, and really, work with the best. So, Gary, please.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Gary Mitchell on LinkedIn. Also, there's a company page, On Track Coach. On Track is spelt without a K, by the way. It's 2 C's. Well, there you go. That's my homepage. OnTrackCoach.com is the website, and you can reach me through that. And the And Approach is available on Amazon in the paperback and Kindle version. And I'm working on the audiobook. So I'm looking to release the audiobook before the end of the summer. So
who's gonna be? Are you hiring Matthew McConaughey to read the audiobook?
No.
Or what's his name?
I can't afford it, Andres.
What about Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah. No, probably not. I'll probably be doing it myself, actually. Yeah.
Well, you have a lovely voice, so absolutely.
Well, as an avid audiobook listener, I'm listening. Was it you that recommended the Big Leap?
No, it wasn't me, but I'm gonna make sure that I put it in here.
Definitely, I started it on Friday. I've been listening to it all weekend. It talks about getting into your zone of genius, which is really what I'm talking about, right? Following your strengths, focusing on your strengths, building a team around you to do everything else. I'm telling you, if you just do that, the freedom that you're going to experience in your career is mind-boggling. All the stuff you procrastinate on because you don't like it, right? It's off your desk. I'll leave you with one thing. One senior partner was with a larger firm. says to me near the end of our 1-year mandate, he goes, Gary, I just can't believe it. I'm only doing work that I love. And I laughed and I said, because you followed the plan. You built a team around you and you've learned how to properly, effectively delegate. He became a magnet at the firm for the young associates because word spread. This guy is the guy you want to work with. He's going to mentor you. He's going to introduce you to the client, so you're part of the relationship. He's going to get you engaged from the very beginning. He's not going to control you and keep you on a leash. And now he's got this freedom, right? So, I mean,
Beautiful thing.
the possibilities are really, they're only limited by the way you think.
Well, with that, I think everybody basically got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of information, in regards to what to do and what are the next steps, no matter what your business or your practice is. Gary, I want to thank you so much for this conversation. I can tell that really your mission is an important one and your impact to all of these business owners, law firms, practices, it's really impactful. So we want to thank you so much for coming into the show.
My pleasure, Andres. It was great conversation. I would very much love the opportunity to come back again. Thank you. And thank you to your listeners.
No, thank you so much. We're going to do that again. And of course, if you're looking at us and you got some value out of this information, please follow, like, subscribe, share with a friend of yours, maybe with another business owner that needs these tools and maybe needs to hear this information. And of course, we're going to see you in the next podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Evermar Capital, Business Capital, and Consulting. Whether you're buying a business, expanding through franchising, or looking for growth capital, Evermar Capital helps entrepreneurs and business owners access the funding, strategy, and connections they need to succeed. Build smarter. Scale faster. Visit Evermar Capital today. Connect with our team and turn business opportunities into results.